The story of Jesus Christ from the series by Dorothy L. Sayers continues now on 4 Extra. The actions of this new prophet they're calling Messiah are agitating the authorities, and they're taking drastic action to make a point.
The Man Born to be King, a cycle of plays on the life of Jesus Christ. The 4th play, The Heirs to the Kingdom. Now, after Jesus had healed many sick people, he went out one day and saw a tax collector called Matthew sitting at the receipt of custom. And he said unto him, "Follow me." And he left all, rose up, and followed him. And Jesus was at that time with his disciples in Galilee.
So you see, the merchant said to me, "That's right, isn't it?" And I said, "That's right." But when I got home and reckoned it out, I was 6 drachmas short.
Oh, 6 drachmas? Well, really, Philip.
Well, I'm sorry, Andrew. I'm very sorry, everybody.
I dare say you are. But here's me and my brother Andrew, and both the Zebedees, John and James, working all night with the nets to get a living for the lot of us.
Yes.
And then you, Philip, go and let yourself be swindled by the first cheating salesman you meet in the bazaar.
Well, I told you I'm sorry, Simon. Master, I'm very sorry. Well, it sounded all right when he worked it out.
The fact is, Philip, my boy, you've been had for a sucker.
Ah, you're right, Matthew.
Yes. Let him bring the changes on you proper. You ought to keep your eyes skinned, Philip. You ought to, really. If I was to tell you the dodges these fellas have up their sleeve, you'd be surprised.
Oh, very likely, Matthew, but never having been a tax collector, I haven't your advantages.
Oh, Philip, that's not kind.
I'm not denying I pulled off some pretty shady deals in my time. Took my rake off on everything that went through me hands, and that's how I made my pile. I'm not sticking up for myself. But it's not right to let a twister get away with it like that. It isn't fair to your friends.
Does it really matter? The master said we oughtn't to bother about money, didn't you, master? Anyway, let the poor sinner have it if it'll do him any good.
All right, John, let him have it. But, Philip, let him see that you know all about him.
Well, how do you mean?
Well, tell him. Friend, you've cheated me, but I make you a present of the poor trash for the love of God. And then he might feel ashamed of himself. But if you behave plain silly, that only hardens his heart. It's innocents like you, Philip, that put temptations in a man's way. God forgive me, I ought to know. What do you say, Master?
Listen, I must tell you a story. There was once a rich man who had a steward, and one day he got to know that this steward had been playing fast and loose with his estate. So he sent for him and said, "I'm very sorry to hear this about you. I'm afraid I shall have to dismiss you. Bring me all the books, because I want to go through them." Well, the steward was very much upset. He said to himself, "What am I to do now? I've lost my job. I'm no good at working on the land, and I would be ashamed to live on charity." But then the steward got an idea that would make plenty of people glad to take him in and give him a new job. He sent for all the people who owed money to his employer, and he said to the first, "How much do you owe, my lord?" And the man said, 100 measures of oil." "Look here," said the steward, "I'm a friend of yours. I don't want to be hard on you. Let's call it 50. And to the next debtor he said, "What ought we to get from you?" And the man said, 100 bushels of wheat. So the steward said, "Make out your return for 80 bushels, and I will give you a receipt in full."
Didn't the employer find out?
You bet. After the chap had got his new job.
Oh, yes, he found out eventually, and next time he met the steward, he said, "Fellow, you are a complete rogue, but I do admire your thoroughness."
Good man.
Worldly people, you see, use far more wisdom about their trifling affairs than unworldly people do about the affairs of God. So I say to you, learn from them.
Yes, that's right.
Learn how to deal with the world and make friends with worldly people, so that when everything earthly fails, you may know the way to their hearts. If you can't handle the goods of this world, how can you be trusted to handle the true treasure of heaven?
Master, that's rather hard to understand. But I do see I'd no right to be so stupid. I'm sorry I spoke as I did to Matthew.
Oh, that's all right, Philip.
Perhaps he'd better be our treasurer till I've learnt a bit more worldly wisdom.
Oh, no, not me. Please, Master, don't let it be me. I've put money out of my mind, and I'd rather not have the handling of it. I was brought up bad, you see, and I've repented. But if I was to feel the silver in my fingers again, well, I wouldn't answer for myself. Don't try me too hard, Lord. Don't now. I'm only a beginner.
God deals gently with beginners. John, see who that is at the door.
Yes, Master.
Excuse me, does Jesus of Nazareth live? Why, hello, John Bar Zebedee.
Judas! Where did you spring from?
Well, I
Good to
guess
see you
so.
again.
You
Come
too.
in, Andrew, Simon, who's here?
Why, it's Judas.
Master, this is Judas Iscariot. He was with us when we were all disciples of John the Baptist, and he followed John when he went to prison.
Hail, honored Rabbi.
Judas Iscariot, you are welcome, for the love of my cousin, John the Baptist.
He sends greetings to you. And to you all. Andrew, Simon, how good it is to be back. John Bar Zebedee, where's your brother, James?
On the roof, I think. I'll call him down. James! James! Here's Judas come to see us. Oh.
Well, sit down, Judas, and tell us all the news. Well, this is Philip, by the way.
Hello.
And that's Matthew.
Yes.
Oh, look, your feet are dusty. Let me get you some water.
Thank you, Simon. Here comes James. How are you, my lad?
All the better for seeing you again. I say, Judas, have you left John the Baptist? He's all right, I hope.
Yes, if an eagle in a cage can be said to be all right. He's still Herod's prisoner in the fortress of Machaerus.
That grim and fearful place by the Dead Sea. Oh, Judas.
Well, he's safer there. Out of sight, out of mind. And so long as the Queen forgets him, his life will be spared. Herod isn't unfriendly. He makes his captivity as tolerable as anything can be in that horrible salt desert. His friends are allowed to come and go, and news reaches us from time to time. Rabbi Jesus, we've heard much of your teaching and of the wonderful works that you've done here in Galilee, and we marveled. But John is restless. Day by day he looks out from his prison window over league upon league of white and barren salt, and he says, it is well, but Herod rules in Galilee, and the hand of Caesar is over all. When will the Lord turn and visit his people? When will the long spears go up to Jerusalem? And he sent me and 2 others of his disciples to look for you, Rabbi Jesus, and to ask what you mean to do.
You shall see and hear all you will, and take back your report.
Concerning me, John sent you a special message. Shall I recite it?
Yes. What does he say?
He says this: Cousin and master, I commend my pupil Judas Iscariot to you, for I have taught him all I can. These are John's words, you understand, not mine.
Of course.
I have taught him all I can, and I think that many things that are dark to my sight are clear to his. And I would not have him eat out his heart in the wilderness, where I remain a prisoner of hope. That is John's message.
Are you of one mind with him, Judas?
Rabbi, I have loved John and honored his teaching. But always he has pointed to one that should come after him. And now he stands as Moses stood on the summit of Pisgah and looked upon the new land where he might never set foot. But it was Joshua that led Israel into Canaan. And are you not Joshua? For Joshua and Jesus mean the same thing. And so God's angel knew well when he named you before you were born. And I think that the new kingdom will be very unlike the old, and the way towards it is a hidden way, and nothing will be as we supposed.
Judas, Unless a man is born anew, he cannot see the kingdom of God. There was a man called Nicodemus, a member of the Sanhedrin, who came to me secretly one night asking me about these very things. And I told him that, but he didn't understand. And I told him again, unless a man is born anew by water and spirit, he cannot enter in. For the wind blows as it wills, and you hear the sound of it, but nobody knows where it comes from or where it is going. And so are all those who are born on the wind of the Spirit.
That's what I mean. John's baptism is of water, yours of the Spirit, as he said. But what does the water know of the wind that troubles its waves?
You have subtlety and understanding, Judas. And courage, too, I think. These are great gifts. Where God has given so much, he will require great things. Can you be faithful?
I hope so. I'll tell you this. If I set my hand to the plough, I'll never look back, though the furrow should run with tears and blood.
That, I'm sure, is true. Take care, lest it turn out truer than you think. But if you are resolved, then come and follow me. For everything that the prophets have said about me must be fulfilled, and nothing can happen except as my Father wills. Children, entertain your friend. I must be alone for a little.
You've put him in a strange mood, Judas. When he's like that, I can make nothing of him. But you seem to understand him. Andrew, you don't know what you've got hold of. The world's being turned upside down while you sit and look on. What do you think he is, that man who's just gone out?
We think he is the Messiah, who will restore the kingdom of Israel.
And the power of God is certainly with him. He lays his hand on the sick and cures them, and does many other wonderful things.
I remember the very first time I realized that he wasn't like other men.
Tell me, Simon.
He'd been sitting in the boat with my brother Andrew and me. You remember, Andrew?
Oh, I do.
And talking about the love of God. We'd had a bad night with the trolls, and we were feeling a bit downhearted. But we forgot that, listening to him. And all of a sudden he said, quick and cheerful, Simon, Andrew, let down the net on this side if you want to catch. Oh, I said, it's not much use. We've toiled all night and taken nothing.
And I said, we'll have a try if you say so.
Aye, so we did. And the weight of the fish broke the net.
We had a job to get him aboard. That's marvellous.
Well, then I lost my head. It seemed so queer, and I was tired. I fell on my knees and said, Sir, go away and leave us. I'm a sinful common man, and I can't bear it. And he laughed and said, Have courage. Follow me, and I'll teach you how to catch men.
Of course, that's nothing to the things we've seen since. Matthew, tell Judas your story.
You don't know me, mister. Well, I'll tell you. I am Matthew, and I was a tax gatherer.
Tax gatherer?
You know what to think about that. I can see it in your face. One of the dirty dogs that works for the government and makes his profit out of selling his countrymen. That's so. You're dead right. Well, see here. I shan't forget my first sight of him. When he came down our street the other day, I don't mind telling you, I'd had a pretty good morning. Patting myself on the back, I was, thinking how I'd managed to put the screw on some of those poor devils of farmers and salt away a tidy bit for a rainy day. And I looked up, and there he was. Hello, I thought. Here's the prophet. I suppose he'll start calling me names like the rest of them. Well, let him. Hard words break no bones.
Yeah, that's right.
So I stared at him. And he stared at me. It seemed as though his eyes was going straight through me and through me ledgers and reading all the bits as wasn't for publication. And somehow or other he made me feel dirty.
How do you mean?
Oh, that's all, just dirty. I started shuffling my feet and he smiled. You know the way he smiles sometimes all of a sudden?
We know.
Yeah, and he says, "Follow me." I couldn't believe my ears. I tumbled out of my desk and away he went up the street and I went after him. I could hear people laughing and somebody spat at me. I didn't seem to care.
It wasn't any of us, Matthew.
Oh, no, I know that. Well, when he got to my house, he stopped and waited for me. And I said, "Will you come in?" And he said, "Yes, please." And I said, "I'd ask you to dine with us, but, well, you mightn't like our company." And he said, "Why not?" And I said, "Look here, this isn't a fit place for you to come to. You know how I get my living." And he says, "Yes, I know. It doesn't matter." So he came in and sat down, and all these lads here came with him. And nobody seemed surprised, only me.
We gave up being surprised some time ago.
Some of the Pharisees were rather surprised. Remember that bunch at the doors we came out? Really, my good man, your master should know better than to hobnob with all this riffraff.
Yeah, and he turned on 'em sharp. "Healthy men don't need the doctor," says he, "but the sick do. I've no message for respectable people, only for sinners." And I said to him, "Master, I'm coming with you." And he said, "Come along." And I walked straight out of the house and here I am.
What happened to all your belongings?
Oh, I never gave him a thought. And not for a week. Oh, then my brother hunted me up and asked me what I thought I was doing. "Sell the whole lot up," I said, "or do what you like. I've done with it." And I'm having a wonderful time, hearing him talk and seeing the good he does. Oh, now you remember that poor chap by the pool of Bethesda?
We do.
You must listen to this, Judas. Paralysed 38 years he was. Lay there all the time on a mattress. "Stand up," says the master. And he stood straight up on his feet. Jesus said, "Pick up your mattress and go home." And he slung the mattress over his shoulder and off he went. Oh dear, that started something, that did, didn't it?
Why?
The elders didn't like it because it was the Sabbath. They made out it was breaking the law to carry a mattress on the Sabbath day.
Would you believe that anybody could be so paltry? Last Sabbath, we were going through a field. And we were feeling a bit hungry, so we rubbed out a few ears of corn in our hands and ate them. And up comes a couple of these precious prigs pulling a long face. "Here, don't you know it's against the law to prepare a meal on the Sabbath?" Prepare a meal, I ask you. And the master says, "The Sabbath was made for man, and not man for the Sabbath. That's right. Therefore," he said, "the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath."
He said, "The Son of Man"?
Yes.
But that's a direct claim to the title of the Messiah. Well, what did they say to that?
Nothing. But they went away muttering, "There's certainly going to be trouble."
You think so too, James?
I know it. But the people will be on his side. They won't forget what happened at Nain. No. If you had seen that, Judas.
Why? What happened at Nain?
You tell him, John.
Poor boy's funeral, and his widowed mother crying her eyes out. Jesus said, "Don't cry, mother." And he touched the bier, and the bearers stood still. "Get up, my lad," he said. And the dead boy sat up and spoke.
Yeah.
Judas, it was terrifying. He put the boy in his mother's arms, and the people cried out, "A prophet, a prophet! God has visited his people."
You're right. There will be trouble.
I'm glad you're here, Judas. You're clever and you can see ahead.
Well,
and
I
I believe that you understand the Master better than any of us.
Yes, do join us. Have you a head for figures, by the way?
Oh, Judas has a good head for everything.
Thanks, Andrew, for your kind testimonial. I can add 2 and 2 and make 4, if that's what you mean.
Well, then you can take over the accounts. I got swindled by an oil merchant today and lost 6 drachmas. I'm not very popular. Even the master read me a lecture on the necessity of worldly wisdom. So I shall hand over the bag to you with pleasure.
All right.
What's the matter, John? What are you looking for?
The candlesticks. I can hear footsteps outside. The master's just coming back. He usually reads to us from the scriptures for a little while before supper. You'll stay, won't you, Judas?
Yes, of course I will.
There's a taper, Andrew. Can you get me a light from the fire?
Yes, John. Here.
Oh, here's the master now.
Are you ready, children?
Yes, Master. Judas may listen too, mayn't he?
Of course.
From which book will you read tonight?
I will read the story of Joshua.
Thank you, Reverend. And the fame of Jesus went throughout all Syria, and there followed him great multitudes of people from Galilee, and from Decapolis, and from Judea, and from the country beyond Jordan. But the Pharisees in Jerusalem took counsel against him, how they might destroy him.
Good Jerusalem wine, this, landlord.
I'm glad you like it, sir.
Landlord,
Sir?
a flask of wine and some bread and cheese.
Yes, sir. Drawer, wine for the noble centurion. Where will you have it, sir?
Oh, out here, I think. Here's the bench under the fig tree.
Where the other gentleman is sitting, sir?
Yes, I don't suppose he'll object. Excuse me, sir. Do you mind if I... What? Socius, by the gods.
Proclus. Well.
We haven't met since the last German campaign.
How are you after all these years?
Pretty well for a veteran of 58, and you?
Oh, well enough, except for my stiff leg. They invalided me out after that wound I got at Minster.
Your wine, centurion.
Oh, thank you. You'll join me, Socius?
Oh, willingly.
Yeah, and a refill for my friend, landlord.
Yes, sir.
So you're still in the army, Proclus. I imagined you'd retired years ago.
Oh, not me, no. Oh, I pleaded good health and good service, and they kept me on as a centurion. Sent me down to the country to keep order and train auxiliaries. Nice little place I've got down there, too. In Galilee, near Capernaum. Oh, it's a one-horse sort of town, but very pleasant.
Oh, what are you doing here, near Jerusalem?
I just brought up a draft. They seem to be expecting some sort of trouble.
Well, they're always expecting trouble. Here's health.
Here's to you.
Yes, the Roman governor, Pontius Pilate, he got the wind up properly over that uproar about the dedication ceremony.
Oh, I thought the emperor had settled that in Rome.
Oh, so he did, but he backed up Herod. Told Pilate to respect Jewish feelings and dedicate his shields at Caesarea. Since then, Herod and the Roman governor haven't been on speaking terms. It's a bad thing when the imperial and the local authorities can't pull together.
Yeah, I wouldn't put anything past Herod Antipas. He's an oily, foxy brute. Not like his father. I served 10 years with old King Herod, you know.
Did you?
Yes. Held the rank of captain in his personal bodyguard. Not bad for a centurion, eh? Oh, fearful old barbarian was Herod, of course. But a thundering good ruler, and perfectly loyal to Rome.
Oh, it needs a thundering good ruler to keep these Jews in hand.
Oh, they're not so bad. You only need a bit of tact. Pontius Pilate never had any tact, that's his trouble. He's a sound enough man, but... well, he's all tied up with red tape and the importance of being governor of Judea. No, these Jews are very honest people if you take them the right way. I get on like a house on fire with the elders at home. They invited me to subscribe to building them a synagogue, which I did, and they were as pleased as...
Very likely. But you try inviting them to build you a temple and see what they say.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, you may oblige their Jehovah, but they won't oblige your Jove. That's their idea of religious toleration. Well, even among themselves they quarrel like cats. Well, there was a tumult only the other day about some prophet or other. They're holding an indignation meeting about it this afternoon, the elders and the Pharisees. Now, this prophet... here I say, I think the man comes from your part of the country.
Huh?
Jesus, bar something...
Bar Joseph?
Bar Joseph, yeah. What do you know about him?
Not very much. He's a carpenter's son from Nazareth, and they say he's a miracle worker. I've only seen him once, but I like the look of him. A good man, I thought, with something godlike in his face. You know, when Apollo the All-Healer took human shape, he might have looked like that.
Apollo the Healer? Well, he's healed a good many people in Jerusalem, but apparently he picked on an unlucky day or something, and the strict Jews took offense. However, it's just as well he's fallen out with the Jewish authorities, because some people have been trying to run him for a national leader, and Pontius Pilate got worried about it. But he'll get no backing for a rebellion if he goes on being so broad-minded. He's got quite a following of young men among the lower classes, of fishermen and tax collectors and that sort. They don't cut much ice.
No, they wouldn't.
Are you staying in Jerusalem?
No, I've handed over my men and I'm going back now. My wife's expecting me.
All well at home?
Yes, very well, thank you. Except my Batman, who's laid up with some confounded disease the doctors don't understand. He's a good man, too. I'd be very sorry to lose him.
You'd better get your Jewish Apollo to work a miracle.
Yes. I've a very good mind to try. But I don't know whether a Jewish healer would do anything for a Roman. I might ask my local elders to approach him, but I don't know how I'd take it.
Well, dash it, you built him a synagogue. They owe you something.
Excuse me, gentlemen.
Oh, hello. What's this old party want?
Excuse me. Could you inform my friend and me, if you happen to know, whether the Sanhedrin are meeting in the old Gazette or in the new hall?
I couldn't say, good Pharisee. But I've seen a number of elders going into the high priest's house over there.
Oh, thank you. I am obliged to you, sir. Come on, Shadrach. Perhaps the meeting is being held in the high priest's house.
Very likely.
Dear me, now we've come right out of our way. We're very late already.
We can take the shortcut through the temple court.
I think this meeting of the Sanhedrin will agree that this kind of thing must be stopped. We need not argue about the man's alleged miraculous powers. He may be a charlatan, he may be a sorcerer, but he has deliberately encouraged a lot of foolish people to fancy that he is the Messiah, and to fan a flame of revolt which may provoke reprisals by Rome. We want no such exhibitions of fanatical and unregulated zeal.
My Lord High Priest, I am Baruch the Zealot, and I object strongly to the Reverend Elder's last expression, which seems intended to be offensive to the party of the Zealots, to which I belong. Zeal for our religion and for our chosen race should know no limits, and I'm horrified that anyone should wish to suppress it on the ground that we have to appease the heathen empire of Rome. My complaint against Jesus Bar Joseph is that, so far from showing zeal for the restoration of the Jewish kingdom, he insults religious leaders, openly flouts the law of Moses, and consorts with Gentiles and Samaritans and the contemptible tax gatherers who bleed our people to death in the interests of Rome.
He preaches the coming of a kingdom.
But he interprets it in some sort of far-fetched mystical sense, in which nobody can make head nor tail. What he's preaching is simply himself, and a fanatical devotion to his own person. If he sets up anything, it'll be an idolatrous cult of Jesus. Do you want to see temples dedicated to Jesus Bar Joseph? Is a divine carpenter any improvement on a divine Caesar?
Aren't we rather straying from the point? Nobody is suggesting that we ought to countenance Jesus of Nazareth. The question is how to get rid of him without causing a popular uproar that would provoke interference by Rome. The governor will not support us in punishing a purely ecclesiastical offense. But if the man were to make some sort of statement which could be interpreted as defiance of the emperor...
The emperor? Do you mean that we should degrade ourselves by appealing to the authority of Rome?
Elders of Jerusalem.
The high priest! Silence for the high priest!
Silence for Caiaphas!
I understand the suggestion is that we should play off Jesus and Rome against one another, make use of Rome, in fact, to pull our chestnuts out of the fire. That seems to me a thoroughly diplomatic scheme for spoiling the Egyptians. Consequently, we should try to entangle this man in his talk and get him to make publicly some claim to the messiahship which might look like a signal for a national rising, or alternatively provoke him into instigating a breach of the Roman law, such as the refusal to pay the imperial taxes or whatnot. Is that what you had in mind?
My Lord High Priest has precisely interpreted my meaning.
In that case, we may proceed
My Lord Caiaphas.
I see the elder Shadrach has something to say. Yes?
I've only this to say. Jesus of Nazareth is no fool, and it won't be so easy to entangle him. Also, we are under the disadvantage that we none of us really know what this movement is aimed at. We all agree that we disapprove of it, but that's about the only thing we do agree about. Jesus has united the people and disunited us. And whether his claims to inspiration are true or not, I think he is an opponent to be reckoned with.
What the elder Shadrach says is very wise. May I also make a suggestion?
Speak on, Baruch.
I believe that if we could disunite his disciples and at the same time obtain inside information about his plans, we might break up this movement from within.
A very sensible scheme, good zealot. Have you any practical steps to propose?
I know a man who might be useful to us. A former follower of John the Baptist, who has been seen about with Jesus these last few weeks. I made contact with him some time ago, and found him keen, daring, and zealous for Israel.
Is he susceptible to threats or bribes?
Not in the ordinary way, no. He has a subtle mind, and would see through any crude efforts to corrupt him. But he may be led into deceiving himself with specious arguments. That is the weakness of all clever people. Intellectual dishonesty springing from intellectual pride. The sin by which Adam fell.
And do you think this proposal is honest?
Brother Nicodemus, that is a very uncalled for remark. Let the wicked fall into their own pit. I take it the meeting approves the suggestion that this gentleman should open up negotiations with... What is the young man's name, by the way?
Judas Iscariot.
And Jesus called unto him his disciples, and of them he chose 12, that they should be always with him, whom also he named his apostles: Simon Bar-Jonah and Andrew his brother, James and John the sons of Zebedee, Philip and Nathanael, James and Jude the sons of Alphaeus, Simon the Canaanite, Thomas surnamed Didymus, and Matthew the tax gatherer, and Judas Iscariot, which also betrayed him. And when he was come to Capernaum in Galilee, he taught the multitudes, saying,
Never think that I have come to destroy the law. I am here to show you how to keep it. For the old law says, Thou shalt do no murder, and lays down how murderers are to be punished. But I say, never hate anybody, for hatred is what leads to murder. It is murder. When you hate your fellow man, there is murder in your heart. And the old law says, love your friends and hate your enemies. But I say, love your enemies. Do them all the good you can. And when they treat you badly, pray for them. Be like your Father in heaven, who sends his rain to water the earth for all men, good and evil alike. Behave to every man as you would like him to behave to you. For this is the way to keep the law and fulfill all the teaching of the prophets.
Master, may I interrupt your teaching for a moment?
Yes, Andrew, what is it?
Here's a deputation from the elders at Capernaum. Will you speak to them? They seem very anxious.
Yes, Andrew, of course. Honored Rabbi, how can I serve you?
God be gracious to you, Jesus Bar Joseph. We have come on behalf of this good friend of ours, Proclus, the Roman centurion who lives near us. His servant, an excellent man, is desperately ill, and he thinks that if you would come and lay your hands on the poor fellow...
The master lay hands on a heathen? My good sir, you must be out of your mind. Every Roman is an enemy to Israel.
Oh, but Simon, don't you ever listen to a word I say? I said love your enemies.
But indeed, Proclus isn't an enemy. He's a heathen, of course, but most friendly to us. Very fond of the Jewish people and very kind to us. He even built us a new synagogue. And he's so distressed about the servant of his who's been with him a very long time.
I will come and see him.
You will? Oh, that's very good of you. It's quite close, only about half a mile. You hear that, Proclus? Jesus says he will come and visit the poor sick fellow.
Just a moment, sir. I'm deeply grateful to these good elders, and to you, Jesus. But I don't expect you to come to my house.
But
we Romans quite understand about prophets and dedicated people. We know their persons are sacred and mustn't be polluted by touching anything that isn't ceremonially clean, and of course we're unclean to you. But besides, in my house, you'd see all sorts of things that you couldn't approve of. Statues of the emperor and of our gods and so on. It really wouldn't be fitting for you to come, and I don't ask it.
Oh, then what do you ask, Proclus? Don't you want your servant healed?
Oh, yes, indeed I do. But surely you don't need to see him. You've only to say the word and he'll be cured.
What makes you believe that?
Oh, sir, I've only to look at you. I know authority when I see it. I've been a soldier all my life. I've had to obey my colonel, and my men have had to obey me. I say to the corporal, come here, and he comes. And to another man, go there, and he goes. Or I tell my batman, do this, and he does it. And I know very well that when you command, you are obeyed.
Do you hear that, all of you?
Yes, Master.
Yes. It is amazing. Nowhere have I met faith like this. Not in the length and breadth of Israel. Go your way, Centurion. And as you have believed, so it will be.
Thank you very much, sir. Rabbi, come with me to my home.
Of course, Proclus, of course. I only hope...
I know.
Master, the two disciples who came with me from John the Baptist want to go back to him now. They ask what message they're to take him from you.
Very well, Judas. Are they here?
Yes, Master. Here they are.
You are John the Baptist's disciples. You remember what it was he told you to ask me? Am I really he whose coming the prophets foretold, or must you look for yet another?
Yes, Master.
Well now, go back and tell John how you've seen the prophecies fulfilled. How the blind see and the lame walk, the lepers are healed and the deaf hear and the dead are raised to life.
We'll deliver your message. Goodbye, Jesus Bar Joseph.
Goodbye. Now, all you people, listen to me. Those men are going to John the Baptist. Today you all came running after me. A little time ago you were all running after him. Have you forgotten him? Herod has put him in prison. That was rather a shock, wasn't it? When you went after John, what did you expect to see? A man dressed in gorgeous clothes? Oh no, you must go to the king's palace if you want to see that sort of person. But what did you really expect to see? A prophet? Yes, indeed. And far more than a prophet. The very messenger of God. Indeed and indeed, I tell you, that of all men born, there has never been any one greater than John the Baptist. Yet the humblest of those who enter the kingdom is a greater man than he. All the prophets and all the law pointed forward to the coming of John. And ever since he came, the kingdom of heaven is here. It stands among you. It is here for you to seize and possess, and resolute men may take it by assault. And I tell you that many shall come from the east and from the west and sit down with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob in the kingdom of our Father, while the rightful heirs to the kingdom are cast out into the darkness to gnash their teeth and howl.
But Master, what shall we do? What shall we do? What shall we do to be saved? What shall we do to be saved?
Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble of heart, and you shall find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light.
Now, when King Herod was keeping his birthday, the daughter of Herodias danced before him, and she so pleased Herod that he promised with an oath to give her whatever she asked. And she, being prompted by her mother, said, "Give me, I pray you, John the Baptist's head on a platter." And Herod was sorry, but he had to perform his oath. So he sent and had John beheaded in prison. And his head was put in a great dish and given to the damsel, and she brought it to her mother. And the disciples of John the Baptist buried the body, and came and told Jesus. The Heirs to the Kingdom was the fourth of a cycle of plays on the life of Jesus Christ, the man born to be king.
In the fourth part of Man Born to be King, The Heirs to the Kingdom by Dorothy L. Sayers, you heard John Westbrook as Jesus, with Gabriel Wolfe, Rolf Lefevre, John Boxer, Stephen Jack, Nigel Stock, Alan Wheatley, John Glenn, Trevor Martin, Hamlin Benson, John Wise, Malcolm Hayes, Howison Colfe, Francis de Wolfe, Heron Carvick and John Gabriel. It was dramatised and produced by Raymond Rakes. And tomorrow, in part number 5, the renaming of Simon and more anger at the work of the new Messiah.